There's like, what an adventure. And
Yeah,
Debra's
Sarah's
like,
like,
I gotta get home.
to be in a relationship, like being the only single Medine would really suck.
So exciting.
I don't want to hear about your singleness story. When you were single, you don't understand what it's like to be me. I think just allowing myself to feel my feelings helped a lot. And just knowing that, like, this is just a part. Like, this is just a part. And once you get your person, you'll look back and be like, that time went by so fast.
I can definitely understand all those feelings. I admittedly look back more though, like I don't miss any of that time alone at all, because I have the one person I always wanted and desperately needed, even to the point where it's hard for me to do like a 10-minute car ride by myself. I will delay leaving as long as humanly possible before getting like 20 minutes late to somewhere because I just don't want to go by myself. And I feel awful when I leave. It's like I'm leaving my family and my beautiful wife and my kids, and I'm going to do this thing by myself. I mean, there will be people there at this one thing that I'm going to, but I don't want to do it because that means I have to be in the car by myself. I hate this.
I love car rides by myself.
Now I've gotten much better. My wife has kind of helped bring me to that point of being okay with it, because now I spend a lot of my car rides just praying. And I have a really hard time like expressing frustration and sadness to people.
I don't.
I know.
I'll cry right now.
But in those car rides, like I use that time to just talk with God, and I vent and I express all the frustration that I felt about anything, all the sadness I feel about something. And then I feel much better. And I'm like, man, I kind of wish I had more long car rides by myself. And then the next opportunity comes, like, I don't want to leave because that means I'm by. Oh, yeah, that's right.
No, I definitely, I say this a lot, or I said a lot in premarital classes. I've had the honor
Such an honor
of watching 6 other relationships happen. No, I had the honor of watching your singleness journey.
Oh, boy.
And
Thankfully, this episode isn't about me.
I just remember saying, I never want to get to that point. I need to do that better.
None of you will ever know.
But I will say, like, in 2020, right before everything happened, there was somebody in college that I was good friends with and wanted to pursue me. And Sarah and I went to Switzerland for a spring break, like right when everything was happening.
We were concerned they weren't going to be able to come back
Yeah,
for
we
the
almost-
whole duration of COVID.
Yes, and that was funny because Sarah and I are 2 very different people and react to things very differently. And in that moment of panic at the airport, flip-flopped.
Sarah's like, what an adventure. And
Yeah,
Debra's
Sarah's
like,
like,
I gotta get home.
Normally I'm like not a home at that time, not a homebody, don't want to be home, never came home during college. And Sarah's very homebody. And in that moment, Sarah's like, oh, it'd be fun to stay here for a couple more weeks. And I was like, I just want to be home. Just please let me go home.
Where Ben & Jerry's is affordable and I have my Netflix.
Yeah. And at that time, when Sarah and I did land back home, we spent 2 weeks quarantined in her apartment. And we were driving to her apartment from the airport, and Daniel was dating Brianna at the time, and Sarah was single, and there was this possibility with the person from school. And I remember Sarah in the car, like we were talking about it, and she's like, well, like, you know, that'd be cool if you guys started dating. And like, what would you think about that? And while we were driving, that's when I like do my thoughts. Like when you're in the shower and you think
I
about.
can think so much more clearly when I'm driving.
Yeah. And I was like sitting there, not driving. I was sitting there.
She's responsible.
Yeah. And I was like, man, being the last Medine to be in a relationship, like being the only single Medine would really suck because everyone around you, we're a very close family, everyone around you has what you want. Because I don't think there's any Medine that was not like, I'm fine being single.
I think Drew was for a while, and then Hannah walked into the picture, and then that went out the window.
Yeah, okay. Maybe.
Very aggressively, it went out the window.
Yeah. Well, I guess I never really know about Catherine. But anyway,
we should ask her.
I was like, that would just really suck. And I was like, I would rather Sarah not be the last single Medine.
So you booted that guy so Sarah wouldn't have to be the last Medine? That's sacrifice.
I don't know, there are a couple of reasons I booted that guy. But but I was just like, God, if there's going to be one, like the last person, please let it be me, because this is nothing against Sarah. No, I think you are a very strong person. But I was just like, I just feel like I could probably handle that better than she could, having 2 younger siblings married while you're single. And like at the time she lived in Albert Lea, away from everyone. So it had been very isolating.
Oh, yeah.
And obviously the stuff did not work with the guy from school, which was good. And
for both of them.
Yes, for both of them. For both of us. And yeah, and then when I was going through the last couple of years of being single, I was like, man, I somewhat regret doing that. This is really hard.
God answers prayers, and not when you want him to.
Yeah. Yeah, and then I'm trying to think of stories from going back to that low point. I remember we were, it was a Sunday, and we were on the worship team, and there was a song, and one of the pastors was talking about how before we played this song, Sarah, I guess, had led this song, and when Sarah led it, all the words in the song, you could see that she was believing to be true, and she was in her singleness, and having a sibling younger than you, when you, like, being married is all you can think about and all you want. Having a sibling younger than you get married is really hard.
Yes. Catherine got married before I did.
Yes.
And she got pregnant with twins before we did.
Yes.
And it was like, why does she get everything before me?
The night before Daniel's wedding, I don't know if anyone knows this. The night before Daniel's wedding, Brianna was living with us, and she was sharing a room with me, which was also very challenging. Sharing a room with your brother's fiance, and she's younger than you, and she's getting what you want, and
thankfully I never had to share a room with Tyler.
Yeah. And I remember I had the biggest bed at the time because it was my room, and I was laying in bed facing away from Sarah and Brianna, and they were talking, and they were like, talking about how exciting the next day was, and how Brianna's getting married, and all this stuff, and I was laying in bed crying.
So exciting.
Yeah, and I was like, this sucks. This sucks. I hate this. And that was in my love-hate era.
Sounds like a T Swift era.
Yeah. Anyway, back to the original story. They were talking about how when Sarah was singing the song, she was singing it and believing in the words, but it not being true yet in her life. And when they're talking about it, they're talking about how, Sarah's had to sit and watch all of her siblings get married, which she really wants, and watching her siblings have kids, which she really wants, and how she was the last one. And I was sitting behind waiting to go out, and I was like, have I been forgotten? I was like, Sarah's not the last one. I'm the last one.
Should have raised a flag. It's me. I'm the last.
It's me. Yeah. And I think that was
it's me. Hi. I'm the single one. It's me.
Me. I'm the one that's having to go through this hardship. And I think that was one of the harder times for me, because it was like, why am I hearing my story with somebody else's name attached to it? And then, of course, it was the woe is me. And I think the woe is me that is a hard thing to get out of.
Yes.
But there was a lot of woe is me in that time. And a lot of like, you don't understand. I don't want to hear about your singleness story. When you were single, you don't understand what it's like to be me.
I do remember a conversation like that with you, yeah.
Yeah.
But
Yes.
look at you now.
You will get through. And I remember, I'm not going to say it because actually I hated hearing it when any girl, any Christian girl
Don't
that
do
is
this, Christian girls.
that is married or like in a relationship or whatever, like past the singleness, and like, oh, don't worry, it will get easy. I've been there. It's worth it. Like, it is great, but that's the last thing you want to hear. Because you're like, you don't know. You don't know what it's like to be me.
That's true. So be aware, Christian girls, when you're giving that advice on Instagram and TikTok.
No one wants to hear it.
Yeah. So save yourself.
No one wants to hear that. Like that caption where you need to see more. And they're like 3 different paragraphs. And it's like, it gets better, the wait is worth it. And you're like, well, obviously it's worth it, but I don't like.
Tell me something that'll actually be helpful with where I'm at right now.
Yeah. Like, yes, being single sucks. If you want a relationship and you want like marriage, like that's all you're looking for. And you're single, it sucks. It sucks. And it's fine that it sucks.
Debra understands, single girls, it sucked.
It sucked. But you'll get through it. Spend some time with your friends. Use the time that you're single with your friends or with your nieces and nephews.
Yeah. It was fun watching you interact with them and like really pour into your relationship with them, because I can see in all the nieces and nephews are old enough to really express anything that they love you as their aunt. And I think your hubby-to-be is at top spot of favorite uncle, and he's not even like an official uncle yet.
Yeah, Bunkle Beethan.
Mm-hmm.
That's the
Good
best
old
uncle.
Bunkle Beethan. I just call him Bunkle Beethan because it's fun to say.
Yeah. Oh, there was
Bunkle Beethan.
My last advice. For the
Wait,
single
are
ladies
those
out there.
single girls actually going to want to hear this?
My last advice. When I was the last 2-3 years of being single, I was also dealing with depression, and I was the worst that my relationship had been with mom and dad. It was the worst my relationship had been with probably a lot of the siblings. And I remember at some point when I had a clear mind being like, before I get into a relationship, I need to fix my relationship with my parents, especially because I don't want to taint my significant other's opinion on my parents, on my poor opinion on my parents at the time. So I need to fix that before I get into a relationship. And yeah, I think that was a big thing that I wanted to do before getting into a relationship. And I did that. Yeah, I just wanted to work. I wanted to work on myself, but also understand that like you might not be the problem. Although you need to work on yourself, and you can't expect somebody else to love you if you don't love yourself. And so I wanted to love myself for who I am and
being confident in yourself. Yeah, you don't
like
want to have a low value on yourself, because then the sort of person you let in is going to have that similar view.
Yeah. And then you're going to put so much pressure on them you're going to put pressure on them for you to find your happiness from them.
And you won't be able to.
No.
And that's a horrible way to put on someone else.
Yeah.
So have a good confidence in yourself, and then you will attract the right person who will treat you the right way. And from that, end up benefiting immensely. So don't just sell out to the first person.
No.
But if you have a good head on your shoulders, and maybe you should probably hear and know that you are important and take that in. Don't get arrogant, obviously. But have that proper image of yourself. You attract the right person. They still won't make you happy. You have to choose that happiness. But they'll definitely help to contribute to that proper, healthy, marital happiness that you want to have.
Yeah.
And then completely decimate odds of divorce. And there's other things we could talk on. But this isn't an advice episode. We can go into that another time.
Yeah, that's just you need to love who you are, and you need to be able to look at yourself and say to yourself, like, I don't want to be anybody else. I'm great. So I wanted to do those. But also consider the fact that while you're working on yourself, you may not be the problem. Like, your future significant other could have things that they need to work on before you are brought together for you to work. So, like, knowing now that Ethan is 3 years younger than me, the timeline was important for when we got together.
Debra marrying a 17-year-old. What a cougar.
Yes. Yeah. So don't obviously be working on yourself, but also consider the fact that maybe your significant other is having to work on some things before you guys would work. Because Ethan and I wouldn't have worked before he went through some things that matured him so that we were, with our age gap, especially and our ages right now, work.
Yeah, I completely agree. And now I'm super excited about Ethan. Like, that's good. You're getting married. That's the way you should feel. But I remember seeing him, like really noticing him for the first time at church. I was playing drums and he was sitting over on like my side of the church, and like in the crowd, like he just stuck out. And it was like, there's something important about that guy. I can't quite put my finger on it, but for some weird reason, I have to meet him. And then wanting to meet him, but like not be weird, and finding like that right time. And so it was a couple of weeks, but then it worked out perfectly. Pastor Amy actually, I think, introduced me to Ethan. And I was like, oh, perfect. This is a great excuse. Now I actually get to meet this person that there seems something so important about. And again, still can't quite place my finger on it. But I do think one of my first thoughts in my mind after I met him was, I wonder if he'd be good for Debra.
I think a lot of those conversations should be put on hold for when we can convince Ethan to do the podcast.
Yeah.
Because that goes into our story. We don't want to give any like spoilers.
Yeah.
Are they going to end up together?
I don't know. Watch for the next episode to find out. And we'll see.
But yeah, there are definitely a lot of, even before I was convinced on Ethan, there was, it was after we'd met, but I was going to a graduation party for one of Mom and Dad's friends' daughter. And it was after church. And so I was in the back listening to music. And a song came on from, I don't remember the name of it, but it's Rascal Flatts. And maybe I'll remember the name later. But anyway.
Write the name right here.
That came on, and just the thought of Ethan came into my head, and like, oh, what if we ended up together? And then it was like the iced tart started to melt. And I got butterflies. And then I ignored those butterflies for months.
I captured them all, stuck a pin in them, and hung them up on my butterfly board.
Yes.
Love. Man, wouldn't that be nice?
Yeah. Yeah.
I do look forward to when we can convince Ethan to join us here and actually hear more of the story, because it is a good one. And I'm not biased about any part of it, of course. But is there anything else you'd want to mention about kind of the struggleness of single before we kind of say goodbye for this episode?
It sucks.
Welcome to the Medins.
It sucks if everyone around you is getting what you want. And so you're just reminded all the time that you don't have what you really want. But also, like, you think, okay, when I get married or when I find my person, I won't be self-conscious. I won't struggle with this. I won't deal with this. Like, everything's going to be great. And I can say that's not true at all. I, within the last year, have had a lot of insecurities pop up about myself. And so that's not true. It's not butterflies and rainbows as much as you want to believe it is. You're going to still have any insecurity or anything else about yourself does not leave when you get the person that, like, you love me no matter what. So why would I be insecure? You're still insecure.
That's true.
Yeah. So being in a relationship does not fix everything, but it is fun.
And it helps having someone to go through those struggles with.
Yes. Yes, definitely.
Because they're dealing with similar things, but their own version.
Yeah. Yep. So yeah, it sucks. You will survive.
And you'll make it to the next episode of Welcome to the Medins. So if you'd like to hear and keep up to date on what we're doing, hear more about Debra's story, find out if her and Ethan end up together, who knows? Press subscribe and push the little notification button too so you get notified when new episodes come out. You can also keep up to us in our kind of daily posts on Instagram and on YouTube. Go follow us on Instagram, like us on Facebook, and we'll keep up the conversation. But until then, we look forward to seeing you next time on Welcome to the Medins.